Watching Morning at NTV, and the morning is made much more brighter and better when you have a coffee from the Coffee City. This Saturday morning, you're powered by Inspire African Coffee. We do a lot of coffee, but there are lots of nutrients and a lot of benefits from coffee. That's a conversation we have a little later. But maternal, infant, young child and adolescent nutrition guidelines, that is a version 2021, provide a framework for standardization and harmonization of implementation of maternal, infant and adolescent nutrition interventions in Uganda. But it's premised on the life cycle approach to prevent malnutrition. And to help us understand this and more, we have Mr. Tim Mateba, a senior nutritionist at the Ministry of Health. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Andrew.
Now, it's very exciting that we're talking about nutrition after COVID-19. A lot of people are going through a lot of, should I call it, nutritional behaviors that are happening. First of all, let's understand, what is the goal and the purpose of you call it the Mican?
Yes, please.
Yeah. What is the goal and the purpose?
First of all, the Mican is an acronym. It stands for, M stands for maternal, the I stands for infant, Y is young, C is child, A is adolescent, and the last one, N, is for nutrition. So Mican is maternal, infant, young child, and adolescent nutrition. This is an acronym, but it stands for a number of things.
Yes.
We have nutrition for a variety of people in that acronym. We're talking about maternal for women. We're talking about infants. Infants are children born from birth to 1 year.
Yeah.
Then young child from 1 year to 2 years. And we're talking about adolescents as well. So we are talking about a situation where we have to manage and provide adequate nutrition for that category of people. So the Mican is it tries to look at the combination as one lot. You cannot say that you are going to be a well-nourished person in the future when you have started on a default note. You should start with a good start as a baby.
And maintain it.
Maintain it through as a child. Go through as an adolescent. Become, if you're a woman, then you are ready to deliver when you have the right nutritional status to give the right birth weight for the baby who is healthy. Now and then the cycle continues.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Mateba, why maternal, infant, and young adolescent? Why?
You see, first of all, the group. The group we are talking about of maternal, this is a vulnerable group.
Indeed.
And yet at the same time, the levels of malnutrition among this vulnerable group, as highlighted by the Uganda the Demographic Health Survey, it shows that there are high levels of malnutrition among these groups. And especially when you come to women who are pregnant, their biggest problem there is anemia.
Yep.
But it also results from the food we eat. But not only that, the state of pregnancy creates that situation for a woman to be malnourished in form of anemia. Anemia is low blood. But we also have the food to eat for the baby to grow well. So the mother is not only looking at herself, but also for the baby.
For the baby, yeah.
So we are looking at a situation where we want a healthy baby from this mother, as well as her own health from the nutrition. So that's why maternal nutrition will be very important. You are talking about two things in one.
In one.
Then adolescents. Adolescents, they have a problem in that at the time when adolescents are from 10 years to 19. Now, they have a very big growth spurt during that time. And yet, there are so many things that happen during adolescence. Peer pressure, body image, choice of foods, and yet we want them to grow to reach the full potential. So if their nutrition is not well catered for, especially in terms of micronutrients, they will choose the food that they think is just easy to have, especially these takeaway foods. Now, fast foods. This is a situation where they need to be guided on food choices.
And they love them so much.
Yes, and yet we're talking about preventing low weight, also preventing obesity.
Oh, yeah.
In this group, they will be at the extremes if you are not careful.
Oh, yeah.
Either they go too much for the fast foods, or some of them even start to look for body shape, especially ladies.
Oh, yeah.
So they need to be helped. And remember, they are preparing, especially women,
To give birth.
to give birth. So we need to take care of them.
Okay. Now, what are the priority areas of the guidelines of the Mican?
The priority areas of Mican, like we have said, is to, one, start with the child, the infant. That the infants, once born, should start with a good nutrition. This involves having early breast milk. We normally recommend as a means of health that within the first 1 hour, that baby should be placed on the breast milk. It has many advantages why we do it in the first 1 hour.
Oh, yeah.
We are talking about breastfeeding then exclusively. Exclusively meaning that you do not give anything else to that baby except the breast milk.
Breast milk. Yeah.
Unless maybe it's medically indicated that, okay, give some syrup. But we are going to talk about exclusive breastfeeding for the normal recommendation of the infant. Now, that takes place for until 6 months. People are tempted to try to give something, especially at around 4 months, 5 months, because the baby is wanting to eat. But we're saying breast milk is adequate up to 6 months.
For the baby.
For the baby.
Nice.
Now, after 6 months, situation is not the same. That breast milk is not adequate enough to give
the growth
the necessary requirement for growth. So then the baby will require extra foods. We're talking about giving complementary foods, and we call it complementary feeding. Now, those foods are the usual foods, but the emphasis is to make sure that they are nutritious. In other words, in terms of quality and quantity.
Okay.
And you breastfeed up to 2 years, or even beyond if you, for some of you, breastfeed for more than 2
Okay,
years.
Mr. Matiba, now that takes me to why are you launching the Mican guidelines today? According to what we understand, that this is actually coming through, and very many people are excited to be a part of. But why are you launching these guidelines?
You see, the means of you don't light a candle and put it under the bed.
It should be out in the public.
Yes. Now here we are talking about guidelines. They guide those who practice nutrition service delivery.
Okay.
So we need them to know. We are launching this guideline, especially today, because it's going to happen at around 10.
Oh, yeah?
The official launch will take
And we're
place
going to cover that as NTV.
Most likely you are going to cover it live. We're happy and we're glad for that. But the reason why we are launching them today is that this timing is about the month of August. And the first week of August is usually
the breastfeeding month.
International World Breastfeeding Week. Now, this timing is because breastfeeding is one of the main components of an infant's
affirmative
infant feeding. Now, in that case, we thought this should be the right time. But at the same time, we want to make sure that each person responsible for the delivery or provision of nutrition services for the entire group, maternal, infant, and young child, and adolescent, should be made aware of the availability of this document, of these guidelines, so that they can be able to give standardized service delivery. What you give in Mulago is the same as what you give somewhere in Bulambuli, somewhere in
Mitoma.
Kigezi, Mitoma, those because of the guidelines. If they are not standardized, each one of us would be giving the way you want.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, then, what are the roles, responsibilities, and the leakages with the other sectors as we're launching this today?
Nutrition is not a one-man show. Nutrition requires that you engage multi-sectoral approach. Whereas you may be providing food and ensuring nutrition, there could be a disease. Nutrition, or malnutrition for that matter, is not because of only lack of food. It could also be to diseases. So, but when it comes to food, while nutrition is for us means of health, we shall be encouraging you to have the following foods, the other foods. The problem is that where is the food? Minister of Agriculture is responsible for food security.
Yes.
But food security does not necessarily mean nutrition security.
True.
So these two must move together. But as you ensure food security and in order to get nutrition security, you're also having other or what we call the nutrition sensitive interventions. Those interventions like sanitation, vaccination or immunization against childhood diseases. We're talking about care practices at home, the gender-based violence issues related to how mothers will be able to manage the children.
Oh, yes.
All those can create a situation where we have child malnutrition, for example.
That's
so
why
we
it's
need
a
other sectors,
multi-sector.
whether it is the, like, for example, here at the NTV. Do you have, for example, an area where your mothers who are breastfeeding can breastfeed when they are here?
No, we don't have it.
And yet we are saying you breastfeed exclusively.
And we have some of our colleagues who are actually
So
having
the
babies.
employer and the employees, there must be a way of helping them to make sure they breastfeed. Having a breastfeeding corner
That makes
is
a
one
lot of
excellent
sense.
idea. But that will require a multi-sectoral approach.
Absolutely.
So that's why we need to deal with other stakeholders. Education, very important. Yes.
People need to be aware of what they're doing.
Yes, and early start in school will give us an opportunity to have a generation that understands that, yes, nutrition is important through education.
Wow.
So we need a multi-sectoral linkage with others. Yeah.
That is Mr. Tim Mateba from, he's a senior nutritionist from the Ministry of Health. Now you understand, later on we'll be bringing you a broadcast as the Ministry of Health is launching this today, and be a part of it. Be the person who loves your children to be nutritious, even you yourself. You need to be nutritious. I'll take a break for now and I'll be back shortly. Good morning.